22 years of deception, one earth-shattering truth. I thought I knew it all. 22 years of seemingly invincible marriage, crafted in love and unwavering faith, an idyllic life, thriving business, a home in Portland suburbs that welcomed, a wife I cherished, and a daughter who embodied my pride. The quintessential American dream, wouldn't you concur? That was the facade from the outside, until the chasm appeared. I encountered Irene in our final year at the University of Oregon. She was studying journalism, a brilliant mind, a laugh that lit up any room. I can still vividly remember the first time I saw her in a campus coffee shop, fiercely typing on her laptop, oblivious to the world around her. It took 3 visits and 1 accidentally spilled coffee to finally catch her attention. When her eyes met mine, initially irritated, then softening into a smile, I knew I was completely captivated. In the tender haze of youth, we found ourselves undeniably bonded. Merely 8 months post our initial date, amidst the bustling energy of a summer waterfront festival, I popped the question. The ring, the product of 3 scrimped months from my part-time earnings, seemed insignificant compared to the radiant smile it elicited. "Are you certain?" she murmured, tears tracing lines on her cheeks. "We have a whole lifetime ahead." "Precisely why I am confident," I responded. "I wish to share every single moment of that lifetime with you." However, the echo of betrayal shattered my world a year later. Cassandra entered our lives unexpectedly. Despite our unplanned readiness for parenthood, when Irene informed me she was pregnant, it felt inescapably right. I can still vividly recall the first time I cradled my daughter, a fragile, flawless being with Irene's eyes and my tenacious jawline. In that hallowed instant, I silently swore to offer her the entire world. The early years were a breathtaking, exhilarating whirlwind. In the midst of starting my landscaping venture, working tirelessly for 14 hours daily, Irene was finishing her degree and caring for Cassandra. Residing in a confined apartment, our thin walls failed to shield us from the persistent disputes of our neighbor. We frequently found ourselves strapped for cash, subsisting on instant noodles and meticulously budgeting every cent until payday. Yet, we were content. There's a depth to shared struggle that forges connections. Each minor triumph was greeted with unrestrained jubilation. A new client, Irene's first published piece, Cassandra's initial steps across our diminutive living room. "We were crafting something authentic here," Irene would whisper, snuggled against me on our threadbare second-hand sofa once Cassandra had fallen asleep. "Something that will endure for eternity." I shared her conviction wholeheartedly. We were the couple who overcame adversity, the ones destined to age gracefully together on a porch adorned by grandchildren and treasured recollections. Upon turning 16, Cassandra witnessed Elliott Landscaping securing contracts throughout the entire city. Irene advanced to the position of section editor at the Portland Tribune. We owned a stunning residence, took family trips, and set up a college fund. It appeared we had accomplished everything, or so I assumed, with a subconscious sixth sense and an eerie premonition. After 22 years of marriage, one develops an almost supernatural sixth sense about their partner. For instance, I could tell Irene was distressed by her methodical loading of the dishwasher, a stark departure from her usual casual approach. This is why I became aware when she began working late at the office 3 nights each week. "A big story," she'd claim, leaving her bag by the door long after dinner had grown cold. Her explanation seemed valid. She was tasked with investigating corruption within the city council. However, something felt deeply amiss. I had cultivated my landscaping business based on my intuition. When a slope seemed hazardous, I fortified it despite the client's complaints about extra expenses. The same impulse was urging me now. After concluding an immense project for the city's new waterfront park, a job that had taken 6 grueling months of my team's effort, I felt compelled to visit Irene at her workplace. I ordered takeout from her preferred Thai eatery and made my way downtown. The Tribune building was mostly deserted at 9 in the evening. The security guard, who knew me from various corporate events, let me pass with a cordial nod. "The 7th floor is largely empty, Mr. Elliott. I'm not sure if your wife is still here." I found the features department hushed and dim, except for a solitary desk lamp and a secluded cubicle. Through the glass door, I observed Irene conversing on the phone, laughing in a manner she hadn't at home in months. My grip tightened around the takeout bag. I could have stormed in, demanded explanations. Instead, I retreated into the shadows and observed. She was unique, pulsating with life, something I hadn't witnessed for years. After hanging up, she gazed at her phone for a prolonged moment, a subtle smile playing on her lips. Then she swiftly typed something and put it away. I slunk off unnoticed, leaving the uneaten food in an outdoor bin. That night, I shared the bed with her, listening to her soft breaths, contemplating who was on the other end of that call, a hidden truth that wounded me. The following morning, I performed an action I never thought I would. While Irene was showering, I examined her phone. There were no questionable calls or messages in the recent activity. Either I was overly cautious or she was extraordinarily careful. 2 days later, I received my answer. Cassandra had used my truck to transport furniture to her college apartment. When she returned, she handed me the keys together with a credit card receipt she'd discovered in the console. "Son, why did you ask about my whereabouts last Friday at the Riverview Hotel? I believed I was attending the Landscaping Expo in Seattle." In truth, I hadn't been to either location, but I knew exactly who had been using my corporate credit card. I am not one to act without concrete evidence. After 2 decades of business building, I learned the importance of thorough investigation before taking action. So I enlisted Mike, an old friend who was in my debt, after I landscaped his entire property at a reduced cost. "Are you certain, Neil?" Mike questioned as we sat in his truck near the Tribune building. "Once you see it, you can't unsee it." "I want the truth," I retorted, my jaw tense. The credit card receipt indicated a hotel charge during a time when I was supposed to be out of town. Either someone had stolen my card or Irene was meeting someone and concealing her activities. After a week of observation, Mike contacted me during a client meeting. "You should see this," he said. "He's at Riverview again." After informing my supervisor to wrap up the presentation, I drove there 20 minutes later. Mike indicated a silver Audi parked in the corner. "That's not her car," I remarked, frowning. "No, she came here in a cab 40 minutes ago. The Audi belongs to someone else." He handed me his long-range camera. Through it, I recognized a tall, gray-haired man glancing at his watch before entering the hotel. Somehow, he seemed familiar. "His name is Damon Reeves," Mike explained, being an editor at the Seattle Sentinel. Apparently, he and Irene had worked together years ago. Hearing the name made me feel as if I'd been hit. Damon was the man she dated before me, the one she occasionally reminisced about with a faraway look, the one who moved to Seattle for his career just prior to our meeting. "I've seen enough," I said, returning the camera. Cold demeanor and a crushing revelation. That night, I didn't confront Irene. Instead of discussing it with you, I arranged a meeting with our longtime family therapist, Dr. Winters, regarding my business-related stress. When I informed Irene about this, she appeared relieved as the topic didn't concern her late-night conference story. During the session, Dr. Winters inquired about our relationship. I admitted to feeling a change between us. She tried to dismiss it, claiming we were both preoccupied due to busyness, but it was just a passing phase. The therapist then asked if there was anything else going on between us, something that Neil should be aware of. Irene glanced at her phone and seemed unsettled by a vibration. Her expression cracked as she admitted to having contact with someone. "An old friend," she said evasively. I corrected her. "Damon Reeves isn't just an old friend." She looked surprised, eyes widening. "How did you know does it matter? What matters is that you've been deceiving me, using my credit card to pay for your hotel expenses." Irene attempted to negotiate, but abruptly rose up. "I apologize for revealing it like this, but perhaps it was necessary," she said. Her voice gained strength. "Damon and I have reunited, and I've come to acknowledge something. I've been deceiving myself all these years. You were always the alternative, Neil. What we shared, it was valuable, but it was not right." I remained seated as my 22-year marriage fell apart before me as Irene informed me that I had been her backup option all along. The ride home from Dr. Winter's office was quiet. weighted with 2 decades of memories that suddenly assumed a darker significance. Each anniversary, each holiday, every peaceful Sunday morning, everything felt like sand slipping away. At home, Irene started packing a suitcase promptly. "Is this it?" I asked, standing in the doorway of our bedroom. 22 years, and you just abandoned me?" She paused, holding a folded sweater tightly. I hadn't anticipated this outcome. I received a call from Damon about a possible job opportunity at the Sentinel. Despite it being supposed to be professional, it became deeply personal. "I'm done," I stated, the authority in my voice catching me off guard. On the outside, I remained my usual stoic and practical self, but inside, I was a tempest. "I believe I've been in love with him all this time," she confessed, almost talking to herself. "Upon his departure for Seattle, I tried to move on with you. I created a satisfying life, a peaceful one, yet seeing him again." "Halt!" I interrupted her. "I have no desire to be your second best." I exited the room and found myself in Cassandra's old bedroom, now a guest room, but still filled with her debate trophies and childhood mementos. My daughter, would she comprehend? A betrayal from a child. As if in response to my thoughts, the front door creaked open. "Mom, Dad," Cassandra called out. "Why are both your vehicles here during the day?" Irene stepped out of our bedroom, her eyes bloodshot, but her chin held high. "Cass, dear, let's have a conversation." I observed as Irene shared her meeting with Damon, detailing her belief that they were meant for each other all these years. With each utterance, Cassandra's countenance transitioned from bewilderment to understanding, yet not the response I anticipated. "So you'll find joy now, Mom?" she questioned, grasping Irene's hands. "I believe so, dear," Irene answered, her tears flowing freely. Cassandra then glanced at me, eyes mirroring her mother's, filled with a peculiar blend of sympathy and accusation. "Dad, you were always so engrossed in the business, providing," she stated sternly. "You didn't notice Mom wasn't content." The betrayal struck me as if it was physical. My own daughter, whom I would move mountains for, seemed to be against me without hearing my side. "You don't grasp everything, Cass," I whispered. "I know Mom deserves happiness," she stated resolutely. "Does it matter that she discovered it with Damon after so many years?" In that instant, seeing my wife and daughter united against me, something solidified within me. The structure I had spent a lifetime constructing didn't just fissure, it collapsed entirely. "You were unfaithful to me," I eventually said, my voice echoing harshly in the room. "After 2 decades of marriage, you betrayed everything we had created, and now our daughter is celebrating your actions." I picked up my keys and wallet. "You two have clearly come to terms with this. I'm finished." Vengeance not out of bitterness, but out of renewal. I stayed at the Timber Lodge Motel on the outskirts of Portland for 3 nights, surrounded by truckers and salespeople traveling through. The worn, functional wood paneling and humming vending machines perfectly reflected my mood. On the fourth morning, I returned home while Irene was at work. I needed papers, clothes, and time to contemplate without emotional conflicts. Unearthing the contents within the safe drastically altered everything. In the process of retrieving financial documents from the office, I stumbled upon an envelope labeled Damon Personal, which contained a pile of letters, some dating back 15 years, all addressed to my spouse from Damon Reeves. Their connection had never entirely waned. Each letter was carefully kept, some bearing faint traces of tears and others featuring handwritten notes in the margins. The latest, dated 6 months prior, mentioned the completion of his divorce and included a line that hinted at another possible opportunity. "Perhaps fate is granting us a second chance." My hands didn't quiver. I maintained my composure. 2 decades of dealing with business crises had instilled in me the ability to control emotions. However, deep within, something profoundly altered. All doubts about whether this was a recent occurrence or a prolonged deception dissipated. As I finished packing, Cassandra unexpectedly emerged. She stood frozen in my office doorway. "Child, what's your plan?" "Me, gathering necessities." "Mother," she expressed concern about you. "Me, concerned?" "My mother has been in love with another man throughout our marriage, Cassandra. These letters confirm it." But they just reconnected." Me, life lesson, dear. People can lie, even parents. Her, but we were happy, I recall. Me, yes, we were. Or at least, I was. That's what makes this more painful. Her, what are you going to do now? Me, the only option, move onward. She, this is your home, you constructed it. How can you abandon everything so easily? Me, I looked at my daughter, wise yet innocent. My home became alien to me the instant your mother deemed me inferior, and I won't surrender. I'm carving my own destiny. I displayed the pile of legal documents I had accumulated. Tomorrow I'll be filing for divorce. I've consulted with my lawyer. Your mother can retain the house. I'll commence anew. But what about me? Cassandra questioned, looking strikingly vulnerable. You've made your stance quite obvious, Cass. You believe your mom deserves joy with her true love. I won't obstruct that illusion. I kissed her forehead and passed by her, carrying my briefcase and suitcase. In the background, I heard her soft weeping as she continued to read the letters, the evidence of a deception that extended not for months but decades. As I departed from the home I had constructed, cultivated, and filled with aspirations, I refused to glance back. Men like me don't fracture. We reconstruct. The split and uncharted paths. The county courthouse was tranquil that Tuesday morning. My legal representative, Sandra Matthews, encountered me on the stone steps, clutching a briefcase, displaying resoluteness in her gait. "Are you entirely positive about this, Neil?" she inquired, her tone hushed. "Minimum dissolution, minimum negotiation, no fault," I confirmed. "Indeed," I said. "I constructed my business knowing when to accept losses and proceed. The same logic applies here. We submitted the required documentation inside to trigger the divorce. No spectacle, no theatrics, merely the systematic deconstruction of 22 years condensed into forms and signatures." Upon leaving, Fortune had other intentions. Sandra was climbing the steps together with her own attorney. She halted abruptly upon spotting me, her complexion paling. "Neil," my name seemed alien on her tongue now. "I was about to file," I declared. "Already completed," I responded calmly. Her lawyer, a well-groomed woman in an extravagant suit, exchanged glances with Sandra. "Maybe it's time to negotiate the settlement terms since everyone is here." We moved to a compact conference room. The four of us sat around a well-polished table that displayed our slightly distorted reflections. "My client is ready to be quite generous," Irene's lawyer started. "She acknowledges the disruption this has caused, and I cut in, stating she can keep the house, her retirement funds, everything in her name. I'll take my business, my personal accounts, and the possessions I've already taken from the house." Irene looked at me incredulously. "You can't be serious. After 22 years, you picked someone else," I completed. "I'm merely respecting your choice by completely disconnecting." Her lawyer attempted to claim that I was entitled to more, but Sandra had my instructions. We laid out the terms: a clean break, no alimony, and limited future contact. As the lawyers worked on the specifics, Irene leaned across the table towards me. "Regarding Cassandra, she appears to be distraught." Upon hearing this, I arched an eyebrow in surprise. It seemed unusual as she had been joyful about your new relationship with your soulmate earlier. "That's unfair," I protested. "She finds herself in the middle of it all." "No, she made a choice, just like you did," was your reply. Just then, Cassandra burst into the room, her eyes bloodshot from crying. "Parents, please stop this," she pleaded. "How did you know I was here?" Irene questioned. "Chelsea informed me," Cassandra replied. "Chelsea is a classmate in her English Lit class, and her father is experiencing a similar situation. We had been discussing it." A quick glance passed between Sandra, who subtly nodded in agreement. "Leave us," I instructed the lawyers. Once they departed, I addressed my daughter. "This isn't your concern, Cassandra. This divorce is between me and your mother." "This doesn't affect me," she echoed incredulously. "You are my parents, yet you are throwing everything away, Dad. The house, half of everything we worked for." "I am not abandoning anything that truly matters," I declared firmly. "I have rebuilt my business once before. I can repeat the action, but I refused to engage in a struggle over material goods with a woman who was emotionally unfaithful throughout our marriage. In court today, I'm relinquishing my marital rights, but be assured, I am acquiring something infinitely precious, my self-esteem. A new phase, reinforced courage 6 months post-divorce, Elliott Landscaping expanded into 3 adjacent counties. I dedicated myself to the job, landing contracts for 2 significant municipal parks and a high-end residential development. My workforce doubled, and I moved into a cozy apartment with a view of the Willamette River. I opted for a fresh start instead of a bitter confrontation, and it's proving beneficial. I look ahead, avoid ruminations about the infidelity, and focus on progress and effort. This approach worked until Thanksgiving, when an unanticipated guest showed up at my office. Cassandra stood from the leather couch in your study, saying, "You can wait," implying her secretary had given you this permission. She appeared thinner with under-eye circles. "I've been ignoring your calls due to being busy," you explained while seating, referring to the Monroe Project blueprints and its upcoming start next week. "Dad," she approached, "Mom sold the house." This was part of the agreement. It now belongs to her. She and Damon are relocating to Seattle, using the proceeds to buy an apartment near his workplace. Her voice held a tension, likely anger or disillusionment. She hadn't informed you about this decision. "You're 20, Cassandra," you reminded. "An adult. She doesn't require your consent." "It's our home," she protested emotionally. "All the memories I possess, my growth marks on the kitchen wall, the treehouse you built for me, the garden we planted together are now lost to strangers." You sighed and leaned back in your chair, saying, "They're just locations, sweetheart. They can't hold our memories." The memories linger with you. It's simple for you to assert such a thing, having left behind everything without a second glance. Yet, do you genuinely believe this was effortless? My composed demeanor faltered slightly. Do you truly believe that? That leaving was easy? I reached into a desk drawer and retrieved a small wooden box, the sole personal belonging in my office. This was all I possessed. Inside lay a few mementos: Cassandra's first baby tooth, her childhood family drawing, a Father's Day card she made at age 10, and a tiny jar of soil from our backyard where we had given her hamster a formal burial when she was 8. I didn't abandon what mattered. Instead, I opted not to wage war for the rest. I whispered softly. My voice cracked with emotion. "I was mistaken, Father, about everything. After you departed, I stumbled upon Mom's old journals. She had been writing to Damon for years, even during periods when they weren't in direct contact. She referred to you as her safe option, her comfortable settlement. With a fiery swipe, she wiped away her tears. How could she label you thus after all you put us through?" I delicately closed the box. "People often see what they desire to see, Cassandra. Your mother required believing she forsook her true love for duty, which shaped her into a tragic protagonist in her personal narrative." "Indeed, I wholeheartedly believed it," she murmured. "I'm terribly sorry, Father." "You're here now," I merely replied. "That's what counts. Could we, could we perhaps restart somehow?" As I gazed at my daughter, the sole individual around whom I constructed my life, I felt a hardness within me gradually softening. "How about dinner?" I suggested, pointing out a nearby good steakhouse. It wasn't complete forgiveness, but it was a starting point, and if there was something I was familiar with, it was constructing on solid foundations, overcoming adversity, and nurturing new hope. A year following the divorce, an unforeseen email arrived from Mike, my former friend who had exposed Irene's affair. "Think you ought to see this," his message stated, along with a link to the Seattle Sentinel website. An article showcased Damon Reeves, newly appointed executive editor, alongside his wife Irene, formerly known as Irene, at a charity event. The article spoke of their rapid romance and marriage, overlooking the fact that their relationship had roots decades old. I chose to close the browser without completing the read. Their literary work no longer caught my attention. That night, I met Ryan Johnston, a potential client in commercial development, at an elite downtown restaurant. His proposed eco-friendly shopping mall could represent my largest contract. "An impressive offer," Ryan commented, moving the portfolio towards me. However, I'm still in discussions with Westlake Designs. They offered 15% less than you. Westlake utilizes non-native plants that appear appealing initially but struggle to survive in Oregon's climate, I shared. Their irrigation systems are ineffective. Within 3 years, the maintenance costs for what they install will double. Ryan looked at me with renewed curiosity. They'd reduce their profits to secure contracts, but I countered by stating, I don't base competition on price. Requesting another bourbon, I signaled the server. I contest based on value and integrity. My work stands the test of time. Ryan smiled approvingly, direct indeed. Let me ponder it. As he left for a phone call, a waitress brought over a family member, Cassandra. Dad, she exclaimed, thinking it was him. The man was accompanied by a young gentleman who seemed slightly familiar. Cassandra asked, don't you remember Jason Miller from my environmental policy seminar? The well-dressed young man extended his hand. Mr. Elliott, nice to see you again, sir. After an awkward introduction, I invited them to join me. When Ryan returned, Cassandra skillfully initiated a discussion with him on sustainable building practices, a topic she'd been exposed to through years of dinnertime talks about my business. By dessert, Ryan was sufficiently impressed to shake my hand firmly. Elliott Landscaping secures the contract. My daughter successfully sealed the deal. Whoever nurtured such a well-informed young woman evidently excels at their work. Following his departure, Cassandra radiated joy. Did I just help you secure a significant client? Indeed, I conceded, swelling with pride inside. It seems you inherited your father's knack for business. Regarding business matters, she hesitated before sharing a glance with Jason. I've been pondering my future strategies. Perhaps graduate school. However, Cassandra smiled demurely. I wanted to inquire if Elliott Landscaping had ever contemplated expanding into environmental consulting. With growing concerns about climate change, businesses require assistance on eco-friendly landscaping techniques. This could potentially be a new division. I regarded my daughter, self-assured and intelligent, exhibiting the same entrepreneurial spirit I'd possessed at her age. An intriguing idea, I said thoughtfully. Building that division from scratch would necessitate a dedicated individual. She expressed her thoughts, her eyes reflecting optimism. If you're open to my suggestions. For the first time in over a year, a dormant feeling stirred within me, not just pride for my daughter, but anticipation for the future. Not a restoration of what was lost, but something fresh, something emerging. I listened attentively, truly meaning it for the first time since our divorce. Rebirth 5 years on. 2 years post-divorce, Elliott Environmental Consulting prospered under Cassandra's guidance. What started as a tentative dinner idea had grown into a profitable division of my company, employing 3 full-timers and securing contracts with Oregon's top developers. On a crisp autumn morning, I stood alongside Cassandra at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Monroe Eco Center, the sustainable shopping complex that signaled the beginning of our professional collaboration. Mr. Ryan Johnston, offering a champagne flute, approached us. Your team surpassed all expectations, he stated. The City Council is currently debating the use of your firm for waterfront development that would be Cassandra's domain, I clarified, gesturing towards her. She was responsible for designing the highly acclaimed rainwater harvesting system. As Ryan and Cassandra conversed with investors, I moved aside to scrutinize the environment. The terraced gardens, indigenous flora, and stone walkways bore the distinctive quality of my company. However, it was the unique water features and solar integration that were entirely Cassandra's innovation. A woman's voice spoke beside me. This is stunning work. You must be very proud. I turned to discover a woman in her 40s admiring the landscape with admiration. She seemed vaguely familiar. Linda Mercer, she identified herself. I'm the newly appointed city planning director. We had a brief encounter at a proposals meeting last month. Neil Elliott, I returned her greeting, shaking her hand. Indeed, I feel a sense of pride, yet it's not entirely due to me. My daughter has played a significant role in this project. The one you've often spoken about, she queried with a smile. The environmental expert? I affirmed. Indeed, that's her. My decision to involve her in the business remains my best choice. Linda's gaze was penetrating, insightful. In families, second chances are seldom granted. Not everyone is so fortunate. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from Mike. Saw this today in the paper. Thought you should be aware. Attached was an article about layoffs at the Seattle Sentinel, which mentioned executive editor Damon Reeves, who had recently gone through a divorce. I left the message unanswered. Bad news, Linda observed my expression. Mere history, I responded, putting away my phone. Nothing relevant anymore. We strolled through the terraced gardens, talking about native plant species and water conservation. When she disclosed her recent relocation from California following her divorce, I spontaneously suggested a coffee meetup to welcome her to Portland. 5 years ago, I believed my life was at an end. 2 years ago, I thought I'd never trust anyone again. However, in this location founded on fresh starts, I rediscovered something nearly forgotten. The future remains untold even after the most agonizing experiences. As Linda agreed to my proposal, I felt a dormant emotion stir once more. Not the reckless ardor of youth, but something stronger, built upon a robust base, an epilogue. My own indestructible foundation. Precisely 5 years since my divorce was finalized, I stood in the backyard of my new home in the West Hills, encompassed by friends, workers, and relatives. Fairy lights glimmered amidst the trees I had carefully selected and planted myself, casting a glow over the terraced garden that had evolved into my private haven. Speech, Ryan Johnston declared, lifting his glass. In the span of a year since the Monroe Project, he transformed into a significant client and a trusted companion. Public speaking wasn't my forte, but certain events warranted it. Linda subtly squeezed my hand in support as I swallowed hard. 5 years ago, I believed my life was nearing its end. Instead, a new chapter unfolded, a new phase. Just like a well-designed landscape, sometimes you need to clear the ground to construct something more beautiful. A hint of laughter swept through the gathering. My team from Elliott Landscaping and Environmental Consulting echoed my sentiment by raising their glasses in unison. Over the past 5 years, our firm has expanded threefold. My daughter spearheaded a radical shift in our approach to environmental design. I pointed towards Cassandra, standing with her fiancé Jason by the fire pit I'd constructed last autumn, and second chances can materialize in the most unexpected guises. Turning to Linda, the engagement ring gleaming under the firelight, we had made our commitment official last month, after 2 years of dating and a year living together. No extravagant proposals or emotional displays, just two individuals who endured their own trials, deciding to create something lasting together. As guests started leaving, Cassandra sought me out near the stone wall marking the property boundary. "She'd be proud of you," she whispered. "Your mother?" I queried, taken aback. "No," Cassandra replied, shaking her head. "My grandmother. Your mom. She often told you that you were a builder of hearts, not just with your hands, but through your entire life." Mentioning my deceased mother, who has been gone for 10 years, caused a lump in my throat. She was indeed wise. "I received a letter from Mom last week," Cassandra continued. "She's back in Portland, now teaching journalism at a community college. There's no trace of Damon in her life." I questioned, attempting to keep my voice even. "Are you going to visit her?" In time, she exhaled. "Yet, I'm not hurrying this. Some structures require time for restoration." I gave a nod, fully comprehending her sentiments. "Regardless of what happens with your mother, you understand where home lies now." As we strolled back towards the house as Linda bid farewell to the remaining guests, a strong sense of fulfillment washed over me. Not because everything was flawless, life rarely is, but because I reconstructed everything according to my own design using my own labor. The man I evolved into during these 5 years surpassed the one Irene had departed from, not in spite of the deception, but due to how I opted to respond to it. The greatest revenge isn't harboring resentment or seeking vengeance. It's constructing a life so rich that the past merely becomes history. "Shall we go inside?" Linda inquired, intertwining her hand with mine. "Indeed," I responded, conveying every possible connotation within my response.